Yo, what's good, guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's storytime topic is about an old landlord of mine. Now, I've moved into many places since I've turned 18. I've lived on my own in quite a few different places. And for the most part, my landlords are pretty cool. I usually don't have a problem with them. Usually they're really cool with me. But this one dude in specific always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And I thought you guys would enjoy hearing a story time about him and how he got fired. So let's jump into this. So this story time takes place in 2018, okay? It all starts off as a normal day. I had just moved into this new apartment, and I was, enjoying it for the most part. The place was super nice. The people around me were super nice, all my neighbors. I only had a few neighbors. Everything seemed good, right? My landlord seemed pretty chill, no complaints there yet. And then one day, about a week into living there, super randomly, I was sitting on my couch at like maybe 11 at night. One of my friends hits me up. He's like, "Yo, Austin, I'm having a party. You should come through." I was like, "Homie, it's 11 at night. You're starting now?" He's like, "Hell yeah, bro. 5 o'clock somewhere." I'm like, "All right, dude." So I went to my friend's house. Now, usually this friend would host parties at like 7, 8 p.m., and then they'd go into like 2 a.m. But for some reason, he was starting later on this night. Whatever. So I get to this dude's party. A lot of people were there. A lot of people I didn't know, but, a good amount that I did know as well. So I was hanging out with those people in specific, just people that I knew. And the party was fun, the whole party, no complaints there. Went through the entire thing till about 2 in the morning, and then I got really tired. A lot of people were still staying there, but I wanted to leave because I was exhausted. So I left my friend's party and I went back to my apartment by myself. I get there, I lay down on my couch, I start watching a Netflix show, and I'm just in my apartment watching Netflix, enjoying my alone time, right? And then I drift off on my couch. I fall asleep. And about 30 minutes into being asleep, I wake up to the sound of my doorknob turning on my front door. Yes, my fucking doorknob turning on my front door at like 3 in the morning now. And I'm like shitting myself. I'm like, oh fuck. There is somebody trying to open my door right now at 3 in the morning. And I'm alone and I'm about to get fucking murdered or something. Like, oh no. So I jump up off the couch, I run over to the door, and I peek through the peephole, and I see my landlord trying to open my door with a spare set of keys. He had like a whole key ring. So I open up my door, and he looks at me with the most shocked face I'd ever seen. And he goes, "Austin, I didn't think you were home." I was like, "Yeah? Then why are you fucking trying to enter my place right now? Why are you trying to get into my place?" And he's like, oh, no, it's not what you think. Somebody called for me to check on you, and I didn't think you were home." I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "One of your neighbors, they called me and said they heard screaming coming from your apartment, like really loud screams for help. So I wanted to come do a welfare check." I was like, "I'm confused. You just said that you thought I wasn't home, so why would you think I'd be in here screaming?" He's like, "I didn't think that. The neighbor did. So I was just coming to check on you. But I even told her that it probably wasn't you because you're not home late at night. Usually you're out with your friends." I was like, "How would you even know that?" He's like, "I just see you coming and going on the cameras outside." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Now, this whole story of his seems super fishy. Like, none of it was adding up. Like, he's telling me that someone called and said that I was screaming, but then he's also telling me he didn't think I'd be home. It was just so weird. So I asked him to please leave and never try to open my apartment door ever again without me opening it for him, because that's fucking creepy. And he leaves. So after that, I didn't want to sleep. I was so nervous. Like, this dude just tried to enter my place while I was sleeping. That's like terrifying. So I decided to go to my friend's house for the night because I was fucking freaked out. And the next day comes along, and I go back to my place, and I decide to start, doing some research. So I knock on my neighbor's door, the next door neighbor, and I was pretty cool with all my neighbors. I knew most of them. So I knock on my neighbor's door, and she opens the door, and I was like, "Hey, quick question. Did you call last night and tell the landlord that I was screaming for help?" And she's like, "What? What are you talking about?" I was like, "Yeah, the landlord tried to open my door in the middle of the night with his spare keys to come into my apartment to check on me, apparently, because somebody called and said that I was screaming for help really loud." And she goes, "No, you're always really quiet." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm the quietest dude in town, but like, shit, I don't think I was screaming." And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, you weren't. I didn't make any calls." I was like, "Okay, thank you." So I leave her apartment. I go to the next one on the other side of me. I knock on their door. This guy answers. I was like, "Hey, man, quick question. Did you call last night to the landlord because I was screaming? Did you hear screaming coming from my apartment?" And he's like, "What? No." I was like, "Okay, thank you. I just want to know that." He goes, "Why? What happened?" I was like, "The landlord tried to enter my place with his spare keys in the middle of the night to apparently check on me because somebody heard screaming, and I think it's bullshit." He's like, "Yeah, man, that sounds like bullshit." I was like, "Thanks, glad that you're on my side." He goes, "Yeah, man, let me know what happens." So I say goodbye to him, and then I go to the apartment across the hall. I knock on their door. This girl answers. I had never talked to her before. And she's like, "Hey, what's up? Like, how can I help you?" I was like, yeah, quick question. Did you call the landlord last night to check on me because you heard screaming coming from my apartment? And she's like, what? What are you talking about? I was like, yeah, the landlord last night tried to enter my place with spare keys. He tried to open my door at like 3 in the morning. And when he came in, he was being real sketchy, saying that someone called and wanted me to be checked on. And she goes, nope, but I can tell you one thing about that landlord. He's fucking sketchy. I was like, oh, is he? She's like, yeah, we're moving out next month when our lease is up because he tried to come into our place once too. And she proceeds to tell me that this dude tried to go in her place once with a spare key, and she caught him doing it on the doorbell. She had like a doorbell camera, and she basically told him to fuck off through the doorbell. So after she tells me this, I'm like, wait, so you caught him trying to basically like go into your house without your permission, and you didn't call the police or anything? And she goes, no, I have a criminal record. I don't think the police will believe me. I was like, does your doorbell record? She's like, no, I didn't record it. I was like, okay, fair enough. Thank you. And she's like, yeah, no problem. If I were you, I'd move out as soon as your lease is up or try and get out beforehand. I was like, thanks for the advice. So naturally, after she tells me this, I'm completely like sold that this dude is a fucking thief. I think that he thought I wasn't home and he was trying to open my door with his spare key so he can go in and steal shit while I'm not there. So I decided to call up the management company that this apartment was under and like the company that he worked for. And I talked to their like supervisor person and I was like, hey, the landlord here, and I gave her his name, I was like, tried to go in my apartment yesterday at 3 in the morning with a spare set of keys. He tried to tell me that it was for a welfare check, that someone heard screaming coming from my apartment, but I talked to all of my neighbors and nobody called him, so I know he's lying. And I talked to one of my neighbors, and that neighbor caught him on her doorbell camera trying to get in her place as well. So I think you guys need to look into this. And the lady's like, yeah, like, of course, like, please give me all your info. So I gave her all of my info. I gave her all of the ladies' info across the hall, even though I probably should have asked her before I did that. I wasn't really thinking. But I gave her my neighbor's info as well, who, caught him on the doorbell camera. And they reached out to her. And turns out, she thought that it wasn't recorded, but her daughter ended up recording it. Her daughter had the app on her phone and shit, and she saved it and had it. So she showed the police this, and she showed the apartment management company this, and they looked into him even more. And after that, I didn't hear anything. I waited a couple weeks, but I ended up getting a call a couple weeks later from the management company saying, hey, Austin, guess what? We found out he was stealing things. He's been arrested and fired. I was like, shit, really? And she's like, yeah. They then proceeded to ask me if anything of mine was missing and if he might have stolen it. Now, luckily, I had just moved into this place, so pretty much all of my stuff was still in sealed boxes. The only thing that wasn't in boxes were like my bedroom stuff, like my computer monitors, my PC, my bed, and then my couch and my TV in the living room. That was it. Nothing else was unpacked yet. So there was really nothing small and valuable that he could have stolen and gotten away with. So I was good. All my shit was still in sealed boxes, and the seal wasn't broken, and everything was in there when I checked. So I was good. For once, my laziness saved me. It doesn't usually pay off to be lazy, but in this situation, it definitely did. But yeah, guys, moral of the story is, don't be like my landlord, or my previous landlord, that is. He's not a landlord anymore. But I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. I hope that never happens to you, because waking up in the middle of the night to someone trying to open your door is fucking terrifying. If you ever do have someone trying to enter your house in the middle of the night who you don't know, try and get out of the house another way as fast as possible and call the police, because that's terrifying. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I would really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I'll see you all later. Peace.
They leave me out for the dead, and now they know they're fucked. All my texts are unread, that's how I know she's done. My life changing a flash.